Right now, the aftermath of the United States' strike on multiple Iranian nuclear sites. What Wisconsin politicians are saying.
And from dangerous heat to now the potential for severe weather. We're going to watch as some showers and thunderstorms move in later Monday. Timing in the full forecast.
A Racine native became the first black woman to win Miss Wisconsin. Our Tenacious Shaw had the chance to speak with her and brings us her story. That's all coming up on News 3 Now at 5:30. Good evening and thank you for joining us tonight. I'm Jalen Banks. It remains unclear whether Iran maintains some nuclear capabilities after the U.S. strikes on 3 major sites, while Iran's foreign minister warned of everlasting consequences and said the attack crossed a red line. The U.S. is warning against any counter strikes by Iran. CBS News correspondent Willie James Enman reports from Washington.
Hours after the U.S. launched airstrikes on 3 key Iranian nuclear sites, President Trump declared the mission a spectacular military success.
Iran's key nuclear enrichment facilities have been completely and totally obliterated. Iran, the bully of the Middle East, must now make peace. If they do not, future attacks will be far greater and a lot easier.
During the strikes called Operation Midnight Hammer, B-2 bombers dropped bunker-busting bombs on the nuclear installations.
The battle damage assessment is ongoing, but our initial assessment, as the chairman said, is that all of our precision munitions struck where we wanted them to strike and had the desired effect, which means especially in Fordo, which was the primary target here.
On Face the Nation, Secretary of State Marco Rubio warned Iran against making any retaliatory moves against the U.S. or its interests.
We'll see what Iran decides to do. I think they should choose the route of peace. We've done everything. We have bent over backwards, to create a deal with these people.
On Capitol Hill, Republicans mostly welcomed President Trump's decision, while some Democrats said the commander-in-chief should have consulted Congress first.
I'm always open to new intelligence, but the procedure should have been that Congress was briefed before we decided to enter war and that we actually had a vote on it.
With Israel and Iran in their second week of battle, the IDF's chief of staff said the campaign is ongoing, adding that the Jewish state has targets to strike and objectives to complete. Willie James Inman, CBS News, Washington.
Heightened threats and environments in the U.S. following the U.S. military strikes on Iran's nuclear sites. The bulletin, first obtained by CBS News Sunday morning, does not note any current specific threats, but warns that low-level cyber attacks against U.S. networks by pro-Iranian hacktivists are likely. And reaction from both sides of the aisle continues to roll in. Democratic Senator Tammy Baldwin releasing a statement on social media earlier today saying, "I agree with the people of Wisconsin. We do not want to be dragged into another war in the Middle East that puts our brave service members at risk. Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon, but diplomacy, not war, is the answer." And Republican Congressman Derek Van Orden expressing support for the president, saying in a post on social media, Iran's first mistake was not signing the deal that President Trump offered. Their second mistake was believing President Trump would not take the necessary steps to protect our allies and interests abroad. Something we'll certainly keep our eye on in the coming days. Let's go ahead and get a look at your certified most accurate forecast with the meteorologist, Blaze Keller. Blaze.
It's still another hot one out there, Jalen, and folks at home. The heat and humidity sticking around not only this evening, but into Monday as well. Here's a current look at what it feels like outside. 98 in Madison. It feels like the triple digits. The Dells, Camp Douglas, Black River Falls. Feels like 105 in La Crosse right now and 100 in Milwaukee. Here is what we are expecting those heat index values to feel like as we continue to move through the rest of this evening. Still feeling like the 90s through about 9 o'clock tonight, the mid to upper 80s from 10 through midnight tonight, and then eventually feel like the low 80s by the time we go into the morning hours on Monday. Still underneath that heat advisory throughout Monday. That goes until 7 p.m. But in addition to the heat on Monday, we're going to be dealing with the chance for some severe weather. Strong winds as well as hail are going to be our main threats. There's a look at the severe weather outlook, a slight and a marginal risk for severe weather. We're going to break down the timing of those storms in the full forecast.
All right, sounds good, Blaze. We'll see you in just a bit. And as always, you can download our First Warn weather app. Just go ahead and search WISC weather. In the App Store, it has hourly planners, road conditions, and radar. And of course, we wouldn't send you there if it weren't free. Now, if it felt like you were seeing double a lot earlier, I promise you weren't going crazy. Earlier today, the Eastside Club presented the 5th annual TwinFest. Twins from all over converged on Madison, playing twin-themed games and trivia, all while having double the fun.
Well, I don't like any sauces, and she loves ketchup. I like playing tag because I never get tagged because I'm faster than Owen. I like mushrooms, and he doesn't. And I don't like mushrooms, he does.
And for all their extra hard work raising them, parents of twins were able to get in for just $1. And breweries across the Badger State teamed up for a good cause today. Over 40 breweries from across the state teamed up for a breast cancer awareness benefit. And people at Madison's Dexter's Pub held tastings and a silent auction to raise money for breast cancer awareness benefits.
So this entire event started 16 plus years ago with my friend Steve, who used to own Wonders Pub, and we've been able to raise over $125,000 in that time. Last year we raised almost $15,000, and we're hoping to match that again today. We've been through a couple blizzards when we had this back in February, and now it's 100 degrees outside, but we got misters and tons of water going for people. We're super excited to be able to raise a bunch of money.
The fundraiser ran from noon to 4 p.m. History was made in Wisconsin this weekend. Last night, Willow Newell became the first black woman to win Miss Wisconsin. Our Tanisha Shaw talked with Newell just hours after she was crowned.
Art is just one of the ways Willow Newell wants to fight for inclusivity.
And I am telling you, I'm not going. You're the best man I'd ever know, and there's no way I can ever go.
That's the song Newell sang Saturday that would help her become the first black Miss Wisconsin after competing against 29 women.
It felt like a dream, and it still feels like a dream now.
She's from Racine, graduated just months ago with a musical theater degree, and is still trying to process all of her recent success.
Willow Newell is your new Miss Wisconsin.
When they narrowed it down, I knew that any one of us could have been Miss Wisconsin. So standing at the final two with Miss Madison, we were holding hands and just looking at each other, and it was just such a beautiful moment.
Newell started competing at 14 years old. She's now 22 and says growing up, she didn't see a lot of people with skin or hair like hers.
That's why I wear my hair the way I do and why I'm so adamant about including everyone in every space. And that's what I want to do across Wisconsin. So anyone who feels left alone or anyone who feels like they've been marginalized or made fun of or feels like they're left out, I want to create a space for them through the arts and just through my life, honestly.
Reporting in Madison, Tanisha Shaw, News 3 Now.
Tanisha, thank you. Next up, she'll have the opportunity to become Miss USA in September. Coming up next on News 3 Now, we take a look at the opioid crisis and how it has developed into what some are calling the opioid generation.
You're watching News 3 Now at 5:30.
It's been well documented how the opioid crisis has ravaged communities all across the nation. CBS News' Scott McFarland sits down with one opioid survivor on the opioid generation.
Raven Weaver of Morgantown, West Virginia is a teacher's aide, a mom of two, and calls herself a member of the opioid generation. How much of your day was thinking about it?
24/7. I mean, from the time you wake up, I feel like opiates not only there's extreme withdrawals, so you're in fear of being sick. So you obviously wake up and you have to get essentially well, and then you chase that high the entire day.
After years of treatment and therapy, Weaver has gotten clean.
Yeah. I mean, you have to be willing to put in work to stay sober.
All 50 states that have been drowning in the billions of dollars in costs helping treat the addicts secured a victory Friday. A federal judge in New York gave initial approval of a $7 billion plus settlement to provide money for all 50 states. Money paid by Purdue Pharma, the maker of the highly addictive OxyContin pills. The money will be sent over the next 15 years, about $850 million of it for former addicts and families. Other money is for treatment and preventative measures. Massachusetts Governor Maura Healey filed the first state lawsuit against Purdue Pharma 7 years ago when she was Attorney General.
And the more you can do around prevention, around education, the less likely it is you're going to be seeing people suffer down the line or unfortunately, dying down the line.
But the money for the victims is of little consolation to Weaver.
There are people that got addicted to the pain pills and have suffered, and they're still suffering. Many have lost their lives, or many have been incarcerated and are unemployable. And so you give them a little bit of money, but it still doesn't justify what they did.
It's expected to be months until any money is actually paid out, but this settlement extinguishes a legal inferno for the drug maker Purdue Pharma and the family that owns the company, ending thousands of lawsuits filed nationwide. Scott McFarland, CBS News, Washington.
And coming up next on News 3 Now, Blaze Keller returns with a complete look of your First One forecast.
We're going to say goodbye to the heat by Tuesday, but then starting really later Monday, actually all the way through Tuesday and further into maybe Friday of next week, we're going to introduce rain chances. So we're going to go from the heat to the rainy conditions within about a day or so. But the good news is if you don't like the heat, we're going to be staying in the 80s next week. Overnight lows not as bad either. We're also going to be watching for those afternoon showers and thunderstorms on Monday. Some of those could be severe. But first, let's touch on the heat that's still going to be present and sticking around into Monday. That heat advisory still in effect for all of the coverage area until 7 p.m. So continue to take necessary steps to stay cool and hydrated, drinking plenty of water, limit your time and your pet's time outdoors. If you do have to be outside even tomorrow, you might want to take a couple of breaks just to make sure your body doesn't get too hot before the storms move on in. Stretching from lower portions of the Mississippi River Valley all the way north to Minnesota, the same areas continue to remain underneath those heat-related alerts. They are essentially the same areas from yesterday as well. Extreme heat warnings stretching from north of the Twin Cities all the way back down past Omaha. We also find a couple more off towards the Fort Wayne area and then stretching all along the East Coast. They haven't gotten the heat yet, but as this high pressure system moves eastward, they're going to be taking our heat and we're going to be cooling on down. Once again into Monday, we're going to be sitting underneath major to extreme risk from heat because we are once again going to not only be sunny and breezy tomorrow, but humid as well. Further north and west, not as hot, low to mid 80s. That's where those showers and thunderstorms will likely develop by the afternoon. Further south and eastward, we're going to hold off on that storm development, meaning we're back into the 90s, but then we deal with that rain threat as we go into the evening through the overnight hours. So alert day on Monday is not only for that continuing heat, but also for those storms that could bring some strong winds as well as some hail. We'll watch that development of showers and thunderstorms along a cold front as we go into Monday, late morning, early afternoon, up near Eau Claire, the Twin Cities, maybe back even further northwest towards Superior. These then will push off towards the south and east as we head into the late afternoon, early evening, beginning to impact our northwestern communities, folks in Juneau, Adams County, Monroe, La Crosse, Vernon counties as well. That line continues to push off towards the southeast, impacting more of central and southern Wisconsin between, I would say, 8 and 10 o'clock. Those storms may be starting to die down in severity, but we're not going to say goodbye to the rain chances. That rain threat is going to stick with us as we go overnight into Tuesday as well. And it looks like our rain possibilities over the next 7 days have not only dried out, but also the total rain that we could see over the next 7 days has also been cut quite significantly across northwestern parts of our forecast area, down to maybe about 1 inch to 2 inches in isolated spots, which isn't necessarily bad. 4 inches could be a complete washout. We don't necessarily want any of that and or flooding concerns, but we could always use a little bit more rain. So I am sad to see some of those rain totals get cut in half, but that's just because we dry out maybe Friday into that following weekend. Earlier in the weekend and late last week, you had rain chances pretty much throughout all of next week. That doesn't look to be the case right now, but we will see those scattered showers and thunderstorms later Monday evening, overnight into Tuesday. Maybe not as much on Wednesday, but we'll still keep the scattered chance Wednesday and Thursday before we dry out and still remain in the 80s Friday, Saturday, Sunday into the start of July.
I'm just waiting for a little bit of a break. The last few days been pretty toasty, and
well, the break comes on Tuesday.
It's not. No,
it has been awful. I have the AC cranked. I sweat just looking outside. It's tough to breathe in here because it's so humid.
Yeah, I mean, typically the studio's pretty cool.
Yeah.
This is the first time in a long time where
It's hot. It's
yeah,
awful.
It's been a little toasty. We keep it cool in here for all the machinery. It's
Yeah.
got to stay.
Well, and I hope folks at home, throughout all of this are staying cool because it's rough out there.
Yeah.
We're not used to this, I think.
Hydrate.
Yes.
And speaking of hydrating, I hope the two teams in the NBA Finals have been doing so because it is Game 7.
Yeah, Game 7, the best 2 words in sports, and still to come in sports. We get you ready for a night that sports fans have waited almost a decade for. Hear from Tyrese Halliburton ahead of Game 7 next on News 3 Now. Not only are Game and 7 the best 2 words in sports, they're even sweeter when you consider it's been since 2016 that a Game 7 has been played in the NBA Finals. And tonight, that all changes when the Oklahoma City Thunder host the Oshkosh native Tyrese Halliburton and his Indiana Pacers. Indy, of course, knocked out the Bucks in the first round of this year's playoffs and have been massive underdogs in every round of this postseason. And don't think that Tyrese doesn't know that.
The expectations for this group from an external viewpoint coming into the year weren't very high. They weren't very high coming into the playoffs. They weren't very high going into the second round of the playoffs. They weren't very high going to the third round. They aren't very high now. So I think we just have done a great job of just staying together. And there's not a group of guys I'd rather go to war with. I'm really excited to compete with these guys in a Game 7, and it's gonna be a lot of fun.
Elsewhere in the basketball world, and stop me if you've heard this before, but Kevin Durant was traded. The future Hall of Famer was traded from the Phoenix Suns to the Houston Rockets in exchange for Jalen Green, Dillon Brooks, and draft picks. The Crew looking for their first 3-game or more sweep in Minnesota since 1996, and it looked good early. In the first, William Contreras lines one back where it came from to bring in 2 and give the Brewers an early lead that would only balloon. In the fifth, leading 5-3, and Bryce Terang blasts a 3-run homer to right, but that comfortable lead would shrink. In the bottom of the ninth, Milwaukee ahead 9-8. Twins with 2 aboard, and Trevor McGill shuts the door. The Crew complete the sweep with a 9-8 victory. To the College World Series, where an LSU win would lock up a national championship. Bases juiced for the Tigers in a 1-1 game, and Chris Stanfield tips the scales. A single scores 2, part of a 4-run fourth that would seal the deal. The national championship trophy is headed to the Bayou for the 8th time. And to the golf links, headed to Connecticut for the final round of the Travelers Championship, and the U.S. Ryder Cup captain came up clutch. He was a stroke back heading to the 18th. After this shot, the leader, Tommy Fleetwood, bogeyed, and Bradley responded with a big birdie. How about Keegan Bradley? A big win for him and a wild finish at the Umbrella. Well, how about that? I mean, crazy finish there, crazy finish there. We were talking about it in the break. All we want tonight is hopefully a crazy finish, but at the very least, a good game in Game 7.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, winner Game 7's not close, though, in the NBA Finals. I mean, we've seen, a handful now in our lifetime, but it's been an exciting postseason. So much young talent really stepping into, the forefront of the league. So I think if we could just encapsulate all that with maybe a game winner or something along those lines.
It'd be great.
Yeah, it'd be awesome.
And we all remember where we were in 2016 when the Cavs completed their 3-1 comeback over the Warriors, and LeBron James brought the title to Cleveland. All of that good stuff. I don't know that the storyline gets up to that level tonight, but hopefully we get an awesome game.
And there's another storyline with Kevin Durant being traded again. I mean, what are your initial thoughts seeing him go to what was, an up-and-coming team in Houston?
Yeah, I think it's exciting for Houston. I also think that it feels just like another next chapter for him. And none of the previous, whether it be Brooklyn, Phoenix, you name it, have really led to all that much. So we'll see what happens. I'm not too optimistic or worried if I'm a fan of a team in the West, but tonight belongs to the Thunder and the Pacers.
Absolutely. Definitely going to have some highlights later on. Thank you, Andrew. A final check of your first one forecast is coming up when we return. So, Blaze, I'm going to head out and get dinner after the show. Am I going to have to, like, brace for the heat when I walk outside again? Or
I'll give you my order before we leave. But, yes, you're going to have to brace for that order. And stay cool tonight. Upper 70s to low 80s, but we'll be quiet. Showers and thunderstorms move into end Monday. Some could be severe.
All right, sounds good. 6 Minutes is up next. We'll see you back here at 10.